Hey Luke, do you know what the only thing better than comic book movies is?
What, Michael?
Comic book movie reboots.
What? I mean, God, Michael, I just can't wait. I mean, God, so many comic book movies, and we're also getting reboots of those same comic book movies now. I mean, where will the fun stop?
And we're also reaching a point where we're getting reboots almost on top of reboots, because obviously we had the Joaquin Phoenix Joker at the same time as the Jared Leto Joker, because of course Jared Leto is going to be in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And indeed, we are now getting a Superman reboot, even though the DC Expanded Universe is supposedly still running, and it's going to be, and this is the most promising thing, produced by J.J. Abrams.
Oh, yay. I mean,
He's
look,
great
Michael,
at franchises.
What you don't get, Michael, all the criticism of comic book movies is totally stupid because they are modern day folklore. And, more comic book movies allows us to take things in more directions, more interesting movies. And it's not just the case that the vast majority of comic book properties are just basically the same with a little twist here and there. No, that's not the case. It's fucking great. And we should absolutely love all this. And and if you don't like it, you're racist.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and today we are reviewing two movies. And the reason we're reviewing two movies is, well, first of all, they're quite short. Second of all, because we are now going back into our Oscar extravaganza. Obviously, it's been slightly more stretched out with the Oscars being further away this year. But as always, when the Oscars are coming up, we look at the films that won certain important awards at the last Academy Awards, and this time we are looking at the film which won Best Animated Picture, Toy Story 4. But before that, we are going to be looking at Toy Story 3, because we've already looked at Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2, and we looked at those in one installment, so we figured we might as well just fill in that gap rather than leaving Toy Story 3 all left out. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Toy Story 3? I think that's where we should start.
Yes, Michael, we're going to start with Toy Story 3. Like you said, we reviewed Toy Story 1 and 2 in just one review about 2 years ago. So now we're just going to do 3 and 4 in one review as well. And 3 also won the Academy Award for Best Picture, along with Toy Story 4 at the Oscars. Toy Story 3, Michael, sorry, I nearly said 4. Toy Story 3 is what we're going to be doing first. It is a 2010 American computer animated comedy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. It is the third installment in the Toy Story franchise and the sequel to Toy Story 2. It was directed by Lee Unkrich, the editor of the first two films and co-director of Toy Story 2, and it was written by Michael Arndt, while Ulrich wrote the story along with John Lasseter and Andrew Stanton, respectively, for the first two films. Slightly different people in charge, but almost the same. This movie, Michael, stars Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joan Cusack, Don Rickles, Wallace Shawn, John Ratzenberger, Estelle Harris, Blake Clark, Jeff Pidgeon, Ned Beatty, Michael Keaton, Jodie Benson, and John Morris, just to name a few.
Yes.
The release date was June the 18th, 2010 in the United States, so almost 10 years ago. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Toy Story 3?
100 million.
Just 100.
No, I don't know. I was having a moment to think, should I go like more than 100 million? But no, I'll go for 100 million.
Double it.
200 million.
You got it. Well done. Nailed it.
Yeah.
And now, can you tell me how much this made at the box office?
Okay, so I'm guessing a lot. I think this probably... I really feel like this made almost $1 billion, if not $1 billion. So I guess I'm going to go for... I feel like it could have made more, so I think going for $1 billion. I'm going to say it made $1 billion.
You know what, Michael? You are correct. You are correct. I mean, almost. To three digits, it's 1.1 billion, because it's 1.067 billion. But you know what? Only 67 million off. What is that really? So congratulations. I think that's a very, very good guess. So Toy Story 3, Michael. Toy Story 3. Like I said, it was the second Pixar film after Up and the third animated film overall to receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. I don't think I actually said that, but it did receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. Toy Story 1 didn't do that. Toy Story 2 didn't do that. The film received 4 more Academy Award nominations for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Sound Editing, Best Animated Feature, and Best Original Song, winning the latter 2. Toy Story 3 was also the first animated film to gross over $1 billion worldwide in ticket sales, becoming the highest grossing film of 2010, both in North America and worldwide. Imagine that, all over the world, Michael. This in 2010 is the highest grossing movie. It's just an incredible records that this movie racked up. So, having said all that, Michael, did you like Toy Story 3?
Well, the most important thing is that this film, I think, is a considerable drop in quality from the first 2 films. The first 2 films are fantastic. I'm honestly stuck with this film about whether or not I consider it good but not great, or average. I certainly do not consider it great, though, and I did consider the first 2 great. So at best, I mildly liked it. What about you?
Well, I would say it's not a significant drop in quality. I think it's not as good as the first 2, which obviously we're getting into why, but I don't think it's that much worse. I think it's really, really good. Greatness, is it great? Maybe not great, but it's close to being great. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely not average. There are far worse animated movies out there. And we're going to be reviewing one next after Toy Story 3 that have won Best Animated Picture. This one is, it's very, very good. I liked it. And I think, well, of course, we'll get into it now. But first, Michael, nitpicks. How many nitpicks do you have?
I didn't want to be too over the top, but I still got 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't want to be too over the top, I think you failed there. I've got, I think I've got 4 as well, but some of them are joking. So, you know what, Michael? I'll go first. So, my first nitpick, Buzz, right at the start of the movie, of course, Andy is playing with his toys, and he's attacked by all these evil monkeys. The pork chop guy, evil Mr. Pork Chop, delivers the monkeys, and they surround all the characters. And I'm like, well, why doesn't Buzz just fly away? He's shown he can do that. He just stays on the ground and gets caught. Fucking moron, Buzz. Obviously Andy's playing with them, so Andy must not be that smart, I guess. That's what I can conclude from that. My next nitpick, this is a good one. Andy's mom does not appear to have an absolute dump truck ass, I believe is the phrase.
They let themselves down.
Yeah, and of course this is Pixar, so this is unfortunate. Have you seen that meme, by the way?
I do remember it. Yeah, dump truck ass.
Yeah,
it's obviously of course, Mrs. Incredible is the classic example.
Yeah, and they've had a few more in recent years. But what is the guy? It's the guy from Mad Men. What's he called?
Yeah, I don't know. You're the TV expert.
The actor is called John Hamm. And there's that meme of him looking, having a whiteboard next to him. He's like, what if we gave every Pixar mom an absolute dump truck ass? What if we did that?
No, yeah.
and
they let the side down here.
And they didn't do it in this movie. So what's going on? My next nitpick, Mr. Potato Head is still Mr. Potato Head. What is going on here, Michael? This would be better for actually the next movie when it's closer to, because of course what happened this week is Mr. Potato Head rebranded and just became gender neutral. No, it's just Potato Head person. That's quite nice. That bit of news coincided with us watching this movie. And my last nitpick, and this is actually a proper nitpick, an actual proper one. This town that Andy lives in has apparently the best garbage disposal in America. This garbage truck comes twice a week to Andy's house.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think about it, the first time it comes, let's say it's around Tuesday, because of course he's going off to college on Friday. So that's about 3 days before, I'd say, I imagine. So it comes on Tuesday, and then it comes on Friday again. So that's pretty incredible, right?
Well, Americans are incredibly wasteful. You do have to remember that. They produce a lot of rubbish.
Yeah, but this is a government service, isn't it? Think about that. We get ours once a week in the UK. And in America, I imagine, that their public services are stripped down even more. So no way you're getting it twice a week. Come the fuck on, man. You don't even need it twice a week, do you? So,
yeah, but you got to remember their services are stripped down probably because Andy lives in the suburbs, and what you never see is the poorer ethnic minority neighborhood where they have to get a rubbish collection only every 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
okay.
It balances out.
Right. I see. I get you. Yeah. Maybe you're right, Michael. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I've never lived in America for a extended period of time, so I would not know about their garbage disposal. But I think it's a bit excessive, 2 in a week. But anyway, give me your nitpicks, Michael.
All right, so one, do the toys have to be quiet or not? In the car, when they're being driven over to the daycare center, they're literally shouting at each other. And it's always kind of been established that, like, if they do shout, the people can hear them. But this time they're literally shouting in the car, so it's a bit weird. This one is kind of like multiple things, but the whole, like, it's really hard to escape Sunnyside Daycare, and yet obviously Woody escapes easily, obviously Buzz can walk around really easily, and obviously Woody gets in pretty easily, and it's only after all of that has happened that we're then told, oh, it's super hard to escape. And I know they have the line of, like, they've really tightened up security after you escaped, but it's also implied that they had pretty tight security before then, and yet it doesn't enter into it, so whatever. This is the most minor one. The potato head, his hat switches sides when he's the tortilla, like the tortilla flips over, and his hat just flips sides magically. And final one, just an obvious one, but how did they hide under the bucket as the baby was looking at them? Obviously, they're by the sandpit, or I think it's the swings. The baby's looking at them, and he looks over, and you expect, like, oh, they've ran around the corner. But no, they apparently ran away from the cover into the bucket as the baby was walking towards them. Very stupid.
This is a universe that sentient toys exist in. I mean, come on, what are you doing here? You know,
I think
I know,
the baby.
I'm joking. Like, that's the thing. Like, obviously, these nitpicks that I'm giving.
Yeah.
It's like toys aren't real. What are you talking about?
That's why I was saying I could have got more if I was, this is like a thing, the exact kind of thing where CinemaSins can go crazy with it.
Oh yeah, like, they can just go absolutely wild. Actually, I was going to talk about Woody escaping later on in the plot.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, so let's get into the plot then. So the plot focuses on Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and Andy's other remaining toys accidentally being donated to a daycare centre, while Andy, now 17 years old, is preparing to leave for college, and they're ensuing a race to get home before Andy leaves. So yeah, Andy is off to college. They need to get back to make sure they can, I guess, say goodbye to him, or I don't know, just escape Sunnyside, and Woody needs to get back as well so he can go with Andy to college. I guess that's what's going to happen. So this plotline follows on from the second movie, where Woody had to choose between going to Japan and living his life with Andy, and of course he chose the latter. And now Andy, of course, is heading off to college, and they're feeling left out, all the toys naturally. And yeah, this was essentially the choice Woody made at the second movie. It's like, hey, we're going to live our life to the full, and when that day comes, it comes. But for now, I'm going to live life with Andy, not be in a box in Japan. And we see the inevitable conclusion of Woody making that choice. So yeah, that was the thing, that was the choice that Woody was posed with in the first movie, and then in the second movie we get that. In the second movie, that was the question that was posed, and then in the third movie we get the outcome, or the bandit and of the stick, I guess. So yeah, what do you have to say about that, Mike?
Yeah, I think in a way I guess the issue is, it does feel like from that point onwards, it's kind of an example of the question is always, like you say, poised, and then you kind of think, well, is the answer that interesting? Because it's pretty much like the answer is, oh, turns out Andy is going to get older, and then it's kind of going to suck, but ultimately it'll be fine. Which is pretty much, like, it's kind of weird, but obviously at the end of Toy Story 2, what Woody says is like, oh, Andy might get older, but if he does, sure, it might be a bit upsetting, but ultimately it'll be fine. And that's pretty much exactly what this film is. So it's kind of like, this film is really just playing out the exact thing that Woody said right at the end of Toy Story 2, which I guess does make it feel like it's kind of redundant. It's not like totally redundant, but it's a bit like,
we're already getting into whether this movie is redundant already.
I know, it's really difficult not to, because I guess the thing is, with Toy Story 2, it's very thematically tight, and it kind of really deals with these the themes, and I think it pretty much makes its thesis statement pretty clearly, of like, well, you shouldn't just spend your whole life stressing out over the fact that things aren't permanent. You should just kind of enjoy it while it lasts. So to kind of have,
I guess there's no thematic thing like there is in the second movie about like what choice should the characters make, but I think it's just overall it's the conclusion, like things always leading up to this conclusion, and this is how this conclusion happened. It was inevitable that something like this was going to happen, and let's just see what happens. And you also got Sunnyside Daycare thrown into it, so yeah, there's that.
No, I kind of do agree. I think like this film, it does obviously have a purpose, which is seeing everything come to a conclusion. I hope that sentence doesn't come back to bite us about halfway through this podcast. But no, seeing everything come to a conclusion and the final thing kind of reach its end. There is an obvious purpose there, but I guess there are aspects of this which I think feel there are aspects which feel a bit more. It's kind of like a situation where it's almost like, because this film kind of comes from it's almost like an obligation. Like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, it's like, oh, we should see how it ends, and it's like, because it does see how it ends, it's kind of like,
and
it's
the
not
question
like,
is, does it end well? And I think yes, which is why I don't think it's that bad a movie. Yes, it's not as good as the first two, but it's still, it still has a purpose. That's the key thing, and let's, before we talk about the ending,
let's talk about the beginning.
Let's talk about the overall plot. So obviously, what happens is the toys jump into the daycare box, and it's one of those situations in which what happens
It's
because
contrived.
of a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
They think Andy wanted to put them in the trash, but he actually wanted to put them in the attic instead. Woody even gets there to explain it to all the toys, and they don't believe him.
I just wanted to say, what's quite funny about that is it's a bit of a reverse of Toy Story 2, because obviously, I was like thinking about it, in Toy Story 2, obviously Woody wants to stay in the the Chicken Man's house, and all the toys are like, hey Woody, come with us, and he's like, no, I'm staying here. And then in this thing, it's just the opposite of that. It's like Woody's like, come on guys, leave, and I'm like, no, we're staying here. So I was like, oh, isn't it fun? They've just got it's fine.
And the thing is, Andy did call them junk, but Woody could argue, that's because he wanted to make sure his mom didn't sell any of them, basically. He wanted to make sure that they're kept in the attic. By calling them junk, it's like, oh, there's no point in selling them. And you know what? He's right. I mean, who the fuck would want to buy some, 20-year-old toys? Like, yeah, they're not going to have a lot of value.
What about a weird fat collector man? Didn't think about that, did you?
Yeah, but that's just for Woody, though.
No, yeah. Right.
The rest of them are just worthless.
By the way, I just want to say that I actually think the very beginning of this film, I actually liked how you got to see kind of all the different characters work together. Obviously, you've got Buzz Lightyear does his flying thing, and then obviously you get the dinosaur that eats force field dogs. And it's just like, oh yeah, it's fun because it's all the different characters coming together to do that thing. So I actually did like how this film kind of sets up that, like, yes, they're all friends now. Because obviously the last two films have been more about kind of interpersonal conflict between the characters, and that's less the case here, and I'm kind of fine with that, because I think it's nice to see them actually come together.
Yeah, no, that is true. Yeah, that there aren't any conflicts really in this movie between the characters, and I guess it's nice to see them come together to all work as one. But anyway, so let's now get into the next part of the movie, which is when the toys reach Sunnyside Daycare. The promise is, you'll never be outgrown or neglected or ever abandoned. That's the promise of this Sunnyside place. But it turns out that when you get put with the younger kids, you're treated poorly. The strong or new toys have to basically sacrifice themselves. And that is, I guess, the concept that they have been, put in this situation. I guess it is an interesting concept, some toys being sacrificed so the others can live a happy life. Does that remind you of any political systems, Michael? Perhaps?
Yeah. It reminds me of how we all have to sacrifice being able to go out and party just so the old people don't die from COVID. That's what it reminds me.
Okay, an economic
system. Yeah. It reminds me of communism, where the rich people have to lose all of their money just so the poor people could not starve. How selfish.
I know.
No, obviously it's capitalism.
Yeah,
bloody Pixar sneaking anti-capitalist messages in.
Lotso is Joe Biden. Isn't he? Someone that seems friendly but is actually not on your side. He won't fight for a $15 minimum wage, will he? He'll just balk at the first sign of pushback. Yeah,
he's going to bomb the other daycare center.
He is. That's what he's going to do
and
with all that money.
Support the radical religious extremists in the other daycare center. Give them weapons.
Yeah. Again, this concept, in this Toy Story movie, it's not something I guess that's inherent to toys. This could apply to humans too, and that's kind of like the first two movies. But I'd say that those first two concepts were more inherent to toys. Woody going off to live forever in Japan, or basically enjoying his life with Andy and then dying. There's no path that human beings can take where they can go off to live forever in whatever Japan you could imagine. That there is none of that. And the first movie, obviously, Woody was jealous. I guess that's a human emotion, but Buzz thinking
being the favorite toy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Buzz thinking that he's not actually a toy and he's actually Buzz Lightyear. That's something that is like no human beings walking around thinking that they're not human. Unless you're
apart from the furries.
Yeah, unless you're a bit crazy. But that's the thing. That this movie that's why I praise those two movies so much, because it was like if sentient toys did exist, then
these would be their concerns.
This would be their concerns. Yeah, this one isn't really, again, inherent to toys. It just happens to be there. They're in this Sunnyside situation. But it's still good. It's still an interesting concept.
Although I also have another beef with it, which is that I do think it's kind of like they don't cover all the bases of it, because I think with the other two films, again, it's kind of like they really go to pains to kind of actually fully communicate the reality of the situation. Whereas in this film, it kind of feels like the fact that these little kids do need toys to play with kind of gets a bit brushed over. So it's a bit like, I just think it's an instance of where, like I say, the first two films really kind of didn't leave any stone unturned in terms of like considering, well, what would be the actual implications? Whereas in this film, it's kind of just like the character's like, well, we shouldn't have to be played with by the small toys. We should get to be in the good room.
You think they're a bit arrogant?
Yeah, there's no like moment of and I guess it's kind of like they get around it really by having Lotso just be a bad guy. So it's kind of like, because when Lotso's saying like, well, somebody needs to play with the small toys, you're like, hey, that sounds pretty reasonable. But because they don't really have a solution, like a kind of counter, they just have to be like, well, he's evil.
At the end of the movie, if you watch the end credits, Michael, and I hope you did, they did find a solution.
Actually, this time I have watched the end credits before, but I must admit, this time I didn't watch the end credits. Well, there you
go. That's maybe why you don't think this movie is as good, because they do find a solution. So Ken and Barbie, obviously, they stay at Sunnyside.
I do remember now.
Oh, you do? That's good. And basically what happens is that Ken manages to, I guess he's the new leader, and he employs this policy of basically everyone swaps. So you have some toys like tagging in, like one toy gets played with, and then he tags in another, like it's your 5 minutes now to get tossed around. And so, everybody is working together in this society. There's no, I guess, hierarchy. Everyone's, working,
you could say from each according to their ability, to each according to their need.
Yeah.
You could say that, couldn't you?
And it works. They're a happier society.
Well, in theory, but what you got to remember though is that later on the other daycare center comes in and assassinates Ken and replaces him with. I actually have you ever seen the meme? It's like I wanted to teach my kids why communism isn't good, so I gave them all equal allowances regardless of how well they behaved. And then I had the CIA come in and assassinate me and replace me with a dictator. Sorry. See, the funny thing is, like I say, when I was watching this film for the podcast, because obviously I'd seen it many times before, but when I was watching it direct for this podcast, I forgot to watch the end credits. And the end credits actually, so never mind.
I want to see a video essay titled "The Socialist Message in Toy Story 3." The secret socialist message, or the secret anti-capitalist message in Toy Story 3.
Yeah,
I want to see
that's a proper video, nice video essay title.
Yeah, there we go. I doubt it exists, because the thing is, it's not obvious unless you're into this stuff. I think it's not obvious, but it is the case. All the toys at the end, they are like, right, we're living here in this Sunnyside daycare. So what we got to do is we got to make sure everyone does their fair share. And then, we can all, live the best lives possible for all of us combined, and not just some of us having a good time, and all the others being sacrificed and getting torn apart every day. So that's the message of the movie, and that system is good. Toy Story,
it is beautiful.
Fucking Toy Story, man, you'll love to see it. Pixar, did Pixar do Ants as well?
No, Pixar did Bug's Life, which features the classic line. It's not us who need you, it's you who needs us, because the grasshoppers,
is that not
of course.
From Ants?
No, well, see, the thing is, they're very similar films, but I would argue, actually, Bug's Life has a more overtly anti-capitalist message, because the message of Bug's Life is that the ants
the grasshoppers
have to
in Bug's Life.
Yes, the grasshoppers are in Bug's Life.
I haven't seen those movies in ages, so I can't remember. But
we should do a double feature again of Ants and Bug's Life.
Okay, so yes, right, I've got that now. So A Bug's Life is the so that is Pixar. So Pixar, they've been on it for some time. They're Bernie Bros over there at Pixar. So now let's get into, I guess, I'm just going to talk about the dynamics around how all the toys find out they are in this prison. I think it works. I think it works why Woody escapes, and why he finds out, since the clown toy who tells him gives that exposition about Lotso, he obviously would be taken back to Bonnie's mom's house, because of course, she runs that daycare.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Even how Buzz is reprogrammed to help imprison his friends, like that piece of the story, that works as well. I just think it all works quite well.
Although again, Buzz being having a delusional version of Buzz is locking up a character is also from Toy Story 2, when Buzz gets locked up by the factory version setting of himself. But I will say,
different
actually,
character though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I will say that when Woody is at Bonnie's is, I think, my favorite part of the film, and I think it's just like it's fun. Like I like the characters and how they've got this weird thing, and I think it's another example of kind of. It's another take on being a toy because they're like method actors, and that's the thing they've got going on. So they'll be like, when you're doing, you need to become the Tea Party guest, and it's like I like that idea of having toys be method actors.
Are you
and
classically
that kind of
trained?
Yeah, I know.
That's a good line, and that's the thing. That's again humor. It's funny. It's just great script writing overall. It really is. So now let's talk about Lotso, Michael. Let's talk about Lotso. So Lotso's backstory obviously is similar to Jessie from Toy Story 2. Some toy abandoned because of its previous owner. I just do wonder why her parents would leave the toys there. Surely if it's her favourite toy, then they would know about that.
That's a bit confusing.
No, she was playing with it. And something in Lotso just snapped apparently when he sees that he's been replaced. And you're kind of cheating there. You could show before he was abandoned that he was very jealous. No, nobody gets close to Daisy. That was what the girl was called. Nobody gets close to her, but Lotso. Maybe that relationship. That's why he snapped, but they didn't really show that. They just happened to land outside Sunnyside Daycare as well. Apparently, again, quite a coincidence. But his overall. Here's the thing. He's been compared to the what's he called? Mayor.
The Prospector.
Yeah, the Prospector. No,
Kelsey
he's
Grammer.
He's not a mayor, is he? No. No, he's not. And lots. I mean, I find them a bit different because Lotso obviously thinks that if he can't be happy, that means nobody should be happy.
Whereas the Prospector wants people to be happy.
I mean, the Prospector just doesn't think that happiness is possible. Basically. Yeah. I mean, there are two different things. Like he thinks all that stuff about a kid playing with a toy, is just it's just
kind of
stupid.
Naive.
Yeah, it's kind of naive. Yeah, and Lotso, of course, not Lotso thinks all the other toys are naive because we can get replaced. But they do have kind of different perspectives. I do get the comparison though.
Yeah, I think in a way, I guess the comparison's a lot more in the feel of the characters, in that they're both like these happy, kind of plump-looking people. Like, well, hello there, my name's Lotso. I'm the Prospector here, Woody. It's kind of like they come across as very. I guess they radiate a similar energy, but yeah, I guess their philosophies are different. Overall, I think,
and how they end as well is quite similar. Like,
that too.
What he gets put in the back of a girl's backpack, and
girls.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like he gets. Yeah. I think does he get like put in a dress or something? I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I think the implication is because the Barbie. So he finds himself next to a Barbie, and the Barbie's been like disfigured. And thus the implication is that he will be brutally disfigured. Isn't that funny?
I don't think he's disfigured.
No, I think she's just been drawn all over.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that's more likely. But Lotso has a worse ending because what happens to Lotso is he's tied to the front of a garbage truck. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it weird how the other toys around him are completely fine with it. Like, I never really got that. The other toys are just like, yeah, this is fine. So apparently, which does beg the question, if there are toys that like being tied to the front of garbage trucks and are able to just kind of accept it, surely there must also be toys that like being manhandled by little kids.
I mean, what are you implying there?
Well, I'm just saying, so maybe there is maybe there's a class of people that are more suited to the worser jobs, and that there is another class of people who are suited to the high-status, cushy jobs. That's my theory. Some people, you know what I say? This is my Ayn Rand theory. Some people are daycare toys, and they are the elite Ubermensch class. But other people are the front of dump truck toys. Yeah. And they're the parasitic underclass.
Some toys are butterfly toys. That's what the class is called.
Oh yeah, butterfly.
Who deserve to be played with and deserve to run things. But some toys are caterpillar toys. That deserve to be torn apart and made to do all the hard work because that's all they're good for.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect system.
Yeah, exactly. Eugenics in the toy world. You love to see it. That's the thing. Actually, if toys existed, or were sent, there would be toy racism. Quite.
Yeah, actually, that's a good thing because, how there's a
that's something they could exploit for Toy Story 5. There you go.
Yeah, because there's an idea of a lot of the time in films, villains are just Nazis, and a lot of people make fun of it. But I would actually like to see a Toy Story Nazi villain who'd be like, maybe if we removed the weakest toys from our society, we'd have a stronger society overall.
Yeah.
And then we could finally get more land to produce a glorious toy race.
Yeah, I mean, the Toy Story 5's, released in 2029. That's it. Sign us up for that. But anyway, Woody. Basically, let's get back onto the plot now. So Woody comes back to save his friends, and again, another issue I have with this, because when he comes back to save his friends, it's like the ending of the movie. The final breakout scene. And I checked. It happens like 58 minutes in. You're not even an hour into the movie when it happens, and it already feels like it's the final action scene, because it basically is. I mean, it goes on for a while, but that's essentially it. We've reached the final section of the movie, or the ending, and we're like only 58 minutes in. And obviously they can't break out because of the monkey, which I like that, but surely it would be easier to escape in the day then, like Woody did. That's what I was thinking, and this goes back to your nitpick that you said.
Because there are little kids around.
What?
Sorry, I was just thinking, well, because there are little kids around, it means that the bad toys can't as freely move to apprehend them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the monkey won't be on the security cameras. The toys won't be patrolling outside. Like they do at night. That just won't be happening. So Woody escaped in the middle of the day. The rest of the toys can do that as well.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah. Also, think about how Woody gets in to the actual daycare. He goes in through a backpack. Why can't other toys just climb into a backpack? Yeah, go out through backpacks. Yeah. So just you go on through Bonnie's backpack. Just do that once again, basically, and just you can keep doing that day after day if you need to do that. So yeah, I don't think that's a big problem really. Well, obviously, they need to get out because they need to see Andy, yada yada. But I think it's surely be easier to go out in the day. I think if they didn't have Woody going out in the day, then because it's like, oh, okay, he just escapes through a window. Like there's an open window, it's summer apparently, because Andy's going off to college, so it must be like August. So there'll be open windows you can escape out of all day long.
I think also the other thing is they shouldn't have hammed up how hard it is to escape at night. Because by hamming up, because they're like, it's the most impossible thing in the world. It says no one breaks out at Sunnyside, which obviously means like then you're like, well, why wouldn't they just do it during the day? Whereas if it was kind of just like, breaking out's pretty hard. You've got to do this and this and this, and then you'd be like, okay, I can understand why. Maybe then they'll do it because it's not like it's just pretty hard. But by saying like it's the hardest thing ever, you think, well, then they're probably going to try and do something else.
They also big up the monkey, like I said, and
he just gets taken out pretty easily.
Woody and Slinky managed to get rid of him very quickly, like immediately. That's almost the first thing that happens, and then it's over. So basically, the final plan goes into action, and it all works quite well, obviously, and they really thought about it, which is good. Also, I liked the Barbie and Ken scenes.
Oh yeah.
Looking at the high heels and sighing. Mm-hmm. That's clever. You'll love to see it. Also, Spanish Buzz. Did you like Spanish Buzz, Michael?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's kind of like I'm used to it now, but because it's kind of just one joke, which is that he's Spanish. But it's entertaining.
He's Spanish Buzz, but no, I did like it. It was again a nice twist. It's like, oh yeah, toys have different languages. That's good. Anyway, so Big Baby. So they get to the end of the road, the garbage dispenser or whatever, and then Big Baby turns against Lotso. It's quite predictable because Lotso hid that Daisy still loves them or whatever, and the Lotso grabs Woody and literally I like the symbolism of it, pulls him down to where he is. I like that. That's good. And of course, then later on, he betrays them. Again, quite predictable. Like it's hitting a lot of like predictable beats. Along the way. At the ending. But again, I like the symbolism at the end. They all hold hands together, and that is what rescues them after the claw machine comes in. I will say though, the claw a bit of an ex machina. I don't know how the aliens knew they were there. In that fight bit.
I did think it was a nice reference because obviously the claw has been like a very classic thing, so it's kind of like nice to have at the end in the final film.
Yeah, but how did they know they were there, Michael? That should be a nitpick. Ding that. That.
Ding.
How did the aliens know that?
Yeah. I would say the fact you mentioned ex machina, like that's a claw ex machina cliche.
Yeah, I was thinking of Cinema Sins when I said that. I should have put that in the nitpicks, but I was like, you know what? It's the whole final scene thing.
No. I will say, like, I don't like the idea of like at the end they're going to die. Like it I guess the thing is, so I've heard people say like that they cried at the scene when they're about to die. Like there's also the other scene later on, which I think some people cried at. But yeah, like the scene when they're about to die, I've heard people say they cried at that, and I'm like, That's weird.
That's stupid. You know,
because it's
they're
not even like
gonna die.
it's not even like a sad scene really. It's just like, I mean, to me it's kind of weird because they kind of do play it off almost like, you know, like I say, hold hands. I think I'd rather it was just played as like a straight kind of action intense scene rather than trying to play it, because they really like ham it up, like the characters accept their fate and they like hold their hands and like, oh, I guess we're gonna die now. It's kind of like, I would have rather they just kind of went, yes, isn't this a scary, exciting thing? Because obviously by trying to make it like a serious emotional moment, you're like, I don't know, it's pretty hard for me to get invested in this.
Yeah, you know they're not going to die. So obviously they're rescued. They get back to Andy, and we get the final scene of the movie when Andy donates his toys. I was thinking that obviously Woody writes like donate on the box.
Yeah.
And Andy could have just given them like straight back to Sunnyside. Yeah, he could have done that.
That would have been. I mean, to be fair though, Sunnyside probably would have. I mean, it would have been in a way they wouldn't have needed the after credits thing in order to, because they could have just had them find out what was going on when they were dropped off there. But obviously he ends up donating it to Bonnie, and I kind of suggested this already, but this is another scene where I've heard people cry about it, and this one to me makes more sense because obviously he's giving up his toys, and in a way he's kind of giving up his childhood. And I would imagine that obviously if you're a kind of young adult who yourself has had to give up your childhood, then maybe you'd be sad about that. And also if you're a parent who's seen your own kids grow up, maybe it would make you sad. So it's obviously like not crying because they're sad, but like crying because it's emotionally resonant. But at the same time, it is incredibly cheesy, sickly sweet.
Shut the fuck up.
And almost...
Shut the fuck up.
I mean, it's rough, Luke.
I
just sit there and I watch it and I think, oh, look at him, just being such a loser, playing with his toys.
Fucking
How cheesy.
Go to hell, you fucking piece of shit.
It's so cheesy.
I mean, what do you mean cheesy? Like, they've had 2 fucking movies together. You know, that is the payoff.
3 movies.
I mean, when they've been with Andy, you know, his toys, you know.
Okay,
yeah. Where you've seen how much he loves them, you know. It's cheesy, it's sickly sweet, implies that what happens at the end isn't earned. It is completely earned. Completely. It's what do you mean?
It's just like
he's had them, you know, his whole life. Yes, he hasn't played with them for the last few years, but of course, you know, they were a massive part of his childhood. I will say this one. I will say a little criticism against it. Like, did Andy not have an Xbox or something, like, or a PlayStation? Like, he just didn't decide to get any like games console. Like, you know, the PS1 came out in 1999, so, you know, come on.
I think I will say this. Like, I think it's just he gets a bit too into it. Like, I can understand him being like kind of reminiscing. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth, Luke. Obviously I moved house somewhat recently, like, you know, 3 months ago or so. And I was packing up my Lego and I was like, man, I'm just going to make these Lego people have a little fight. But I wasn't like proper getting into it. I was just like, you know, like a normal person.
When you're 25.
Yeah, I know.
So but, you know, I closer to his childhood. He's 18, and this is the thing. I mean, your Lego. I don't know how important your Legos were to you or whatever, but as we've seen from the 2 movies, this is my point. Those toys were clearly important to him. He didn't have an Xbox or a PlayStation or anything. Therefore, you're looking at this and you think this is the last time he's gonna play with those toys. You know, that this is the last time. So that's why he's doing it, and that's why he's getting into it. You know, and. I mean, I do like it how he gives a tribute to each of them as he pulls them out of the box, you know, and that's I don't find it cheesy. I'm like, this is completely deserved. Like, you can do this in your movie if you've had 2 preceding movies where you've seen how much he cares about those toys. And yeah, I think it really is. I think the perfect ending, and not just to the movie, but to the whole,
but to the entire series
saga. It is the perfect ending. It's like, yes, the first 2 movies dealt with, you know, stuff concerning the toys, you know, the questions about themselves, you know, it was a character story for Woody and for Buzz in the first one, and in the second one about Woody, you know, what's he going to do? And he makes the right call in the second one, you know, and that leads him to this conclusion, and obviously we're seeing it played out, and yeah, and it ends in a great way with him giving them up, you know, like we said before, giving up his childhood, and then moving on to college to start a new chapter of his life, you know, just one last time reminiscing with the toys which were such a big part of your life. Actually, you know what, you said, what did you say, Michael, about people crying? You said
I said people cry. Well, first of all, I said people cried in the bit with the claw, but I
Yeah,
also
that's
said people cried for this thing, and I said it was mostly because either they were young adults who had themselves given up their childhood, or they were parents thinking about how their kids had grown up. That was what I was kind of imagining would be the two people crying, and I said it was reasonable that they would do that.
Well,
just for record.
here's the thing. There's some interesting quotes from Wikipedia about this.
Yeah, okay.
Even when the bar raised high, Toy Story 3 enchanted and moved me so deeply, I was flabbergasted that a digitally animated comedy about plastic playthings could have this effect. And that was Owen Gleiberman who said that. Gleiberman also wrote in the next issue that he, along with many other grown men, cried at the end of the film. So, I mean, I don't know if they have kids.
My mum cried.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine people crying.
Yeah,
I can imagine them doing that. It was incredibly emotional ending. It was well deserved, and yeah, like I said, just the perfect way to end things. Quentin Tarantino, by the way, said it was his best film of 2010, which I like.
That's quite exciting.
Yeah.
What a cool guy. I want to see the Quentin Tarantino. He should do the ultimate. I mean, he's done Inglourious Bastards, so he can do the Nazi Toy Story we've all wanted to see.
Great.
I will say, actually, on the subject of crying, this film did lead to one of my favourite jokes of late Simpsons, obviously very late because it was after 2010.
Yeah.
I think Louis says to Fat Tony something like, he says, like, "You're really emotional, Tony. You cried in Toy Story 2. That's not even the sad one."
That's actually, you know what? That's not true because that Jesse song, that's emotional.
Oh yeah, that is true actually. Yeah, so that's probably when Fat Tony cried.
Yeah. I guess just to end, I say it is the perfect ending. And the question overall is, did we need a Toy Story 3? Because 1 and 2 was obviously good. You know, I think 1 is probably the best animated movie of all time. Some people say that about Toy Story 2. You know, just an incredibly high bar. So did we need Toy Story 3? And, you know, there are holes in the plot. Like, it's not as good. The script isn't as good. You know, the characters don't have to, you know, question themselves, etc. You know, the sunny side is the obstacle that they need to overcome essentially, and then they need to get back to Andy. You know, they don't need to like question what paths to go down or whatever, like the second one. But at the end, it just comes together also well, and it is definitely not sickly sweet or whatever. It's so well done. And so yes, did we need a Toy Story 3? If they were going to end it like they did, yes, you're passing the toys on to Bonnie. A new generation, a person is going to, you know, play with these kids. Play with these toys rather. To play with these toys, and then it works. It just works, man. So there you go. Did we need a Toy Story 3? If it was going to end like this, yes, they did it right. They did it correctly, and that was it. Not another one was needed after this.
Yes, I mean, that is the big thing, though. Another one was not needed.
That's basically I just basically concluded on the whole thing. I think, you know, I concluded. That was my conclusion there. So I'm going to give it a score, by the way, just to end it. And then you can conclude. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. That's going to be it for Toy Story 3. 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, with this film, I think... Did we need it? I do think is an interesting question, because for me, I think it's definitely true that you could have made it, but it does kind of remind me of something which I've heard somebody talk about, actually with reference to horror films, but a lot of the time when there's like a stone left unturned in a horror film, when you have a sequel, it will kind of turn all of those unturned stones, and it's kind of like, well, maybe a bit of mystery is nice. And I do think there is something very that I like about how Toy Story 2 ends with basically a message of, hey, you don't know how things are going to end, but you should just go with them anyway. And you know, at the same time, I think being like, oh, but we have to, you know, turn over that stone by saying like, well, how do things end? I think there is an aspect of, you know, I don't think we needed it. I will say that it is, you know, I can understand people wanting it, and I think it has a purpose. That's the thing. I wouldn't necessarily say we needed it, but I also wouldn't say it was like something which was totally unnecessary and didn't have a purpose, because ultimately it is good seeing these toys come back. It is good seeing kind of Andy as an old person, you know, like a teenager going off to college, and it is nice to kind of have that sense of closure. At the same time, though, I get the impression with the film, it did kind of feel just a little bit like they knew that having this film end would be nice, and therefore they weren't as focused on telling a great story as they were with, for example, Toy Story 2. And I think you can make an argument this film, it certainly doesn't have as much of a, you know, concise theming. It does. I would argue the characterization, there's nothing kind of new there. So for me, I will say you've definitely convinced me it's not average. The only thing I'm thinking is, can I give it more than a high 6? And I want to clarify something. You said earlier, there's loads of really bad animated,
6.
loads of really bad animated films. And obviously this film is much better than a lot of animated films. But I would argue, like, compared to the other Pixar originals, for example, like just kind of The Incredibles, I'm trying to think, Finding Nemo, I think all of those films are just like a lot better than this. And I just think at the end of the day, I'll watch Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 1 all the time, I imagine in my head. Whereas I kind of feel like I don't really have much of a need to come back to this film. And that's kind of the issue. Like, I think this film, it's nice, but I don't know if I don't really want to kind of just be like, oh, I want to re-experience Toy Story 3 again. Whereas with Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, I do have that attitude. I know you're annoyed, Luke. You're so annoyed. But I'm going to put this above...
Come on.
Slumdog Millionaire. No, you know what? Okay, you know what? Bloody hell. I guess I can put it as the highest 6.
If you're putting it as I don't care. You're disrespecting it to a massive degree. I don't care what.
Good.
Well, you know what? We're just going to move on to Toy Story 4.
All right, high 6.
But, okay, and I think, it closed the book in such a perfect way. Yes, you get that closure that it does have a purpose, and yeah, Toy Story. It's a story, and that's it. That's the end of the story. The beginning, middle, and end. Perfect.
Don't worry about it, Luke. It's finished.
Best trilogy ever. Oh no, wait. We have Toy Story 4 that has come out, and
Best Picture winner.
So, Toy Story 4 is a 2019 American computer animated comedy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios and released by Walt Disney Pictures. It's the fourth installment in Pixar's Toy Story series, and the sequel to Toy Story 3, which came out in 2010. It was directed by Josh Cooley in his feature directional debut. I was laughing at how can you direct an animated movie?
Yeah, I find that funny.
The screenplay was from Andrew Slanton and Stephanie Folsom. The three also conceived the story alongside John Lasseter, Rashida Jones, and Will McCormack, Valerie Lapointe, and Martin Hines. The starring is quite long as usual. Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Annie Potts, Tony Hale, Keegan-Michael Key, Jordan Peele, Madeline McGraw, Christina Hendricks, Keanu Reeves, Ali Mackey, Jay Hernandez, Laurie Allen, and Joan Cusack. The movie was released on June the 21st, 2019 in the United States of America. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Toy Story 4, sorry?
Well, it was quite a lot for Toy Story 3, and I guess it was even more, so let's go for 250 million. I would think it would be more.
200 again.
Okay, just went for the same amount. All right, 200 million. All right. Well, I was closer this time. I was only 50 million off.
Yeah, I guess so. Can you give me the box office, Michael? How much did Toy Story 4 make?
I kind of want it to have made less, but I still think it probably made quite a lot. So I'm going to say, I don't know if it did make 1 billion. I'm going to go this time for 950 million.
Toy Story 3, and let me just get it up because this is quite interesting. Toy Story 3 made 1.067 billion. Toy Story 4 made 1.073 billion.
It made slightly more.
Toy Story 4 made 6 million more than Toy Story 3.
That's very close to each other.
Yeah, exactly. I looked at the budget and the box office. It's like, this is almost identical. But not in terms of how good the movies were. But anyway, Toy Story 4 obviously gained a lot of plaudits as well, hence why we're doing it, because it was won Best Animated Picture at the 2020 Oscars. Only the 8th highest grossing film of 2019. Of course, Toy Story 3 was the highest of 2010. Like the predecessors, the film received critical acclaim, and obviously, like I said, nominated for Best Original Song at the 92 Academy Awards in 2020, and won Best Animated Feature, making it the first franchise to win the award twice. So that's interesting. The two worst movies, even though I don't think Toy Story 3 is that bad, the two worst movies have won Best Animated Picture, and the two best haven't. Funny how the world works, isn't it?
Bloody Oscars.
Yeah, they just can't help but get things wrong, can they? But anyway, Michael, did you like Toy Story 4?
I loved it. No, this film was bad. I want to almost say surprisingly bad. And you've got to bear in mind, I thought this film was surprisingly bad as somebody who didn't really like Toy Story 3. So bearing in mind, you liked Toy Story 3, would you say this film was even more surprisingly bad?
I heard people say it didn't deserve to win the 2020 Academy Award for Best Picture, or animated film, obviously. So I came into this thinking, oh, it's probably not going to be as good as Toy Story 3, and I was just disappointed at how, like you say, at how bad it was. And I guess I was surprised at how bad it was. It was worse than I expected, and especially considering like I said, I praised how Toy Story 3 ended.
This ruins Toy Story. It's like, that's the thing, like, especially for me as somebody who's like kind of said the main thing, I would say almost the main point of Toy Story 3 for me, and this is probably why, I said that I don't really see much point rewatching Toy Story 3, and I think, like, the main thing with it is that it ends the franchise, and so in a sense this film literally ruins the best part of Toy Story 3.
Yeah, it doesn't just ruin it because it doesn't end. It ruins it because what's actually in the movie, like the ending of Toy Story 3, like I said, which was perfect, is undercut. And we'll get into that, later on in the review of Toy Story 4. But firstly, nitpicks, Michael. How many do you have?
Well, this film must be better because I've only got 2.
I've got 1, so I guess
so this film's better.
I just gave up, kind of like. So my one nitpick is they are really cutting it fast and loose in regards to the toys not being caught. Like, if it feels like there are no problems with the toys being toys in this world anymore. They just talk to the humans multiple times, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that's now a plot device. Like, the toys can talk to humans, and humans don't, realize what's going on. And like Woody can just run through the fucking carnival. What's it called? That's what it's called, right? The carnival. Yeah.
The fun fair.
Yeah, or the carnival. I think either or. He just, there's no chance of him being caught at all, and it's just like. Okay, they're really just, like I said, playing fast and loose with it all. So what's your 2 nitpicks?
Mine are, so one, I just think the whole thing of him, I don't know if you maybe had this as a bigger thing, but I just thought like the whole thing of Bo Peep happening to be based where they end up was very weird, and then, just like convenient. And then this one, maybe kind of speculative, but I think if a random kid found, and this is of course a reference to the fact that Gabby gets found by a random girl, if like I was a parent and my kid found a doll, I'd go, I'm sorry, honey, but I would imagine somebody's lost this doll. We need to take it to the lost and found. So I was kind of imagining if like that's what happened, like this kid just finds Gabby and then the parent is like, nope, time to go to lost and found. But yeah, like to me, I just think
that would be very cruel for Gabby.
I know, I was just thinking that, like, ultimately though, if you're a parent, I would think if your kid finds a doll, especially a doll that looks like it's in pretty good condition, your natural assumption would be, oh, somebody must have lost this doll. I can't really allow my daughter to just steal it.
Thank God we live in a selfish world where parents are like, no, my daughter likes this, so she's keeping it. Well, you snooze, you lose. Or finders keepers. Thank
Bloody
God.
Karen mums, that's what it is.
So is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
So, let's get into the plot of Toy Story 4. The film directly follows Toy Story 3 as Sheriff Woody, like how they call him Sheriff, and Buzz Lightyear, and the other toy friends have found new appreciation living with Bonnie. They are joined by Forky, a spork that Bonnie has made into a toy, and embark on a road trip adventure. That's basically the setup. They're going on a road trip adventure. And, look, man, it's poor. It's really bad. And so let's just go through it, I guess. Like Bonnie, obviously, she goes to school to make Forky, but Forky, he just wants to be in the trash.
He wants to be trash.
He thinks he is trash. What a mood, am I right?
I know, yeah, that's the thing. This was clearly made for millennials.
Yeah, definitely. Fucking hell. Woody obviously is feeling neglected, but he still puts Bonnie first, like a good toy. Forky then. Let's talk about him because he wants to escape to the trash because he's actually a spork and he was made for the trash after he was used, so that is what he wants to do. This complicates things in this toy universe to a degree that I probably wasn't expecting. You become a toy if you are intended to be played with by a child, I guess that's it, but also if you pick something up randomly and play with it, it then becomes a toy. But if the thing was intended not to be a toy in the first place, say it was meant to be a spork or I don't know, something like a camera, it will then try to do what it was first intended to do.
What about a paper aeroplane? That's what I want to know. Because you imagine if you bought a toy aeroplane, presumably in the same way that obviously the RC, the car, is essentially being presumably a toy aeroplane would also be a thing. So if you make a paper aeroplane, surely by that logic, paper aeroplane becomes a person.
Yeah, the paper. The paper aeroplane now is a fucking toy. God, you can just create toys out of thin air.
Also, what about like sports equipment? Because you play with that. So like if you balls, are they toys?
What, tennis
Should
balls?
be. Yeah, tennis balls, tennis rackets.
What about ping pong balls?
Ping pong balls.
Yeah.
We can name every type of ball.
Yep, but that's the thing. So let's just say a ping pong ball. Is that now a sentient toy because it's being played with? If it's played by with a kid, like I don't know. It's just
although you don't even need to be played with because I think they established the Christmas decorations are toys. Did they not establish that in the? Am I weird or did they not establish that in the third film?
They did say that in the third.
They say like, oh, we can go hang out with the Christmas decorations. They're pretty fun. So the Christmas decorations, which aren't even played with by kids, I would assume.
They could be like the nativity scene.
But then you're dealing with the fact that the potential to be played with, is that what makes them?
Well, this is the question. This is what we need to nail this down. And on the end of the movie, like what one of the forks, like Forky asks girl Forky, hey, why am I alive? And then Forky's like, I don't know. And then like does a weird thing with his eye towards the camera. And I think he's like mimicking a wink because he can't wink. So that's him kind of winking to the audience like, I don't know why. Yeah, we're just alive. Don't worry about it. But it's like, if we're reviewing this movie, we have to ask these questions, Michael.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. We would be not doing our duty if we didn't ask these important questions about what constitutes a toy in this universe and what doesn't. Anything more to say on
that? No, not really. I think. I guess it kind of. I kind of want to jump off of this, if I may, off the fact that obviously Toy Story, he's trying to throw himself in the trash, and Woody, his whole thing is he wants to keep Forky from throwing himself in the trash, and this really leads to me, I think, an important plot thing, which is, what is Woody's character in this? And I realize, like, obviously Woody's character unfolds across the whole thing, so maybe we'll have to take it in two parts. But, like, in the beginning, Woody's character, the first thing they establish is, like, he's not in charge anymore. So you think they're probably going to run somewhere with that. Like, he's kind of organising things, but he's not, like, the favourite toy. And I have that line. You're like,
similar to the first movie.
Yeah, like, he's not a favourite toy. But then, obviously, they don't do anything like that, which is fine. Like I said, it would be too similar to the first movie. But instead, it's like, so what do I do instead? He has to keep a fork from killing itself to help Bonnie. Yeah. And, it's a bit weird.
His idea is like, I'm still committed to Bonnie.
Yeah.
Bonnie is, and this is Bonnie's favourite toy, so I'm just going to do what I can. He shouts it at Bo Peep later on in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the line. He says, like, which I guess, like, that's supposed to be his character. It just comes across as, I guess it's just like, it feels really weird to me as like a character arc or whatever.
Yeah, it's not really an arc. Like, you get it a bit in the beginning, then he shouts that really at the end. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that more when we get to the ending of the movie.
Exactly.
What happens? I think that's the best place to talk about it. Woody, he finds Bo Peep while trying to get Forky back to Bonnie.
Yes,
and
Bo Peep.
And is then kidnapped by this 1950s doll,
Gabby.
Gabby, who then orders a bunch of Ben Shapiro dolls to go look for Woody. That's what I thought they looked like.
That's actually really funny. Like, let's say, hypothetically, I stole your voice box, and let's also say, hypothetically, that it was able to get me to be played with by a child. Could we not agree then that I would become a toy?
Yeah. I mean,
brilliant. I love Ben Shapiro. He always says like his catchphrase hypothetically. But okay. Here's the thing. Bo Peep. It's kind of annoying that they decide to. So this was very strange because the logic would be like that she's become a new character by being a lost toy, which would kind of make sense, even though it kind of reminds me of in The Simpsons where Luann's like, forget everything you knew about Luann Van Houten, and Marge is like, to be honest, Luann, I don't know anything about you. That's kind of how I felt about this. It's like, forget everything you know about Bo Peep, and it's like, well, to be honest, I don't know anything about her because she's not much of a character in the earlier films.
She says to Woody in the first Toy Story, "Hey, I'll get someone else to watch the sheep tonight."
Yeah, exactly.
That's what she says. I don't remember.
So she's sexy.
Yeah, exactly. But there's that. I literally don't remember anything else that she does.
She doesn't even come along on the second one, does she?
Does she not? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure she does. Like, that's the thing. But then, like, the weird thing is, so already the idea of having her be like a big character and like having her have this character change that happened off screen is a bit weird because we didn't even like barely know the character. But the worst thing is that that's not even true because the film starts off with a flashback, and we find out and in that flashback she's like this really super confident girl who like knows everything that she's got to do, and she's like kind of Woody's second in command or whatever. And I'm just like, why did they retroactively kind of change Bo Peep's character? Because she wasn't like this in the first few films.
I think maybe they couldn't get the actress who played Bo Peep in Toy Story 3. So then we're like, okay, for Toy Story 4 we can use that, and there's a reason why she isn't she isn't there, it's because she's not with them anymore, because she's gone off to become a lost toy, if you will. Sorry, I'm just checking who plays Bo Peep.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, seeing as you've read out too many names.
It's Annie Potts. Yeah, that is the problem. Like, there's so many names. Annie Potts, an American actress. Yeah, she's but of course she's an American actress. Yeah, so there you go. Annie Potts plays Bo Peep, and yeah, so maybe she couldn't be there for Toy Story 3, and they were like, hey, guess what? In Toy Story 4, we can use this, and Woody has to choose between Bo Peep and basically, being a lost toy, as they call it, or going with Bonnie. That's the thing, though. Like, that is, I guess, what the conflict. I'll say this: that it seems like that's what the conflict turns out to be in the end for Woody.
Yeah,
like, it turns out to be he's got to go with Bo Peep or he's got to go back with Bonnie. Like, at the end, it comes to that conclusion. You never really see that throughout because he's constantly doing stuff, chasing everybody around. But the thing is, what would be good is if he spent a day with Bo Peep, like, had a nice montage with doing all the stuff that Bo Peep does, makes him think, yeah, you know what, I could be a lost toy. Yeah, but you don't get that, and there's no, like, it's never fully realized, like, Woody's choice between, being with Bo Peep or being with Bonnie. Like, it's never really a conflict that arises until the final few minutes where you're like, okay, this is what, like you say, you get bits and pieces throughout, like when Woody shouts to Bo Peep, that's all I'm good for, etc. But there's never. That's the thing, that could have been a nice direction to take it. Okay, we can go. Woody, he has to choose which path to follow, kind of like what happens in Toy Story 2, and he chooses to go with Bo Peep, obviously. But that path, you don't even realise that there's another path that he could go down until the end of the movie.
Yeah, like suddenly it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does come out of nowhere, yeah. And so, yeah, if you had Bo Peep basically showing Woody the ropes of being a lost toy and how good it is, like, he thinks, it's, all what you need as a kid, that's all that, that's all that toys are good for. But yeah, Bo Peep's like, nah, just, you can spend a day being played with lots of kids, at this carnival, it's really fun, etc., etc. But unfortunately, we don't get that scene because Woody is constantly running around everywhere because the fucking script has him going back and forth and back and forth and having all the characters go into the antiques shop and then come back out, and it's like, where the fuck is everyone? Like, and suddenly Buzz comes out, and then suddenly they pick up two fucking African. It's kind of like in
those Scooby-Doo chase scenes when they're being like chased in like a hallway or something, and they run into one door and then they run out the other. That's what this film's like.
Yeah, and the rabbits I was referring to were what was it? Michael Key.
Oh yeah. Michael Keegan. Michael Key and Jordan Peele.
Yes, there you go. Got it. Nailed it. Yeah, Jordan Peele and Mike. I think isn't it Michael?
Weren't they
Keegan
funny?
Key?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Weren't they just hilarious? Thank God they were in that movie. Thank God.
Yeah, they were. Oh,
I mean, that movie couldn't have existed without them. Thank God we got them in there.
It just came across as like so unnecessary.
Yeah, and that's what exactly what it was, completely unnecessary, and they're just in there to sell more toys and have a couple of big names in the movie.
Yeah, that's it. Like, what classic? And it's just the funny thing is, I said that with Toy Story 3, my favourite scene, or I guess, well, it was just one scene, was when they were in Bonnie's house. And it was kind of like, the funny thing about that is, I guess that was really the moment where you kind of just had a moment of like the characters slowing down. Or obviously it was just Woody, but like it kind of slows down, just has a moment to get acquainted. And I think about having like Toy Story 2, I remember obviously after he finds out about kind of the Woody's Roundup gang, they kind of just start playing, and he's like, well, Woody comes out of the saloon, and he comes out, he's like really happy. Yeah, and you have these moments which establish like, oh, this character is like, and obviously the thing with the Bonnie scene in Toy Story 3 is it's setting up what eventually happens, which is they end up being given to Bonnie. So like, there we go, I've complimented Toy Story 3 again. But yeah, like, so that works. In this film, you don't have any moment of like, oh man, yeah, I wish Woody could be a lost toy. Like, there's no moment where I'm thinking, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice if Woody could be a lost toy?
Yeah, well, that's
so it's just that's nowhere. Yeah,
he's constantly just trying to rescue people. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Like, the characters in this movie, they keep on getting themselves into difficult situations, and they have to work themselves out of it. Trying to get Forky back to Bonnie, that's Woody's main thing. There's no concept really at all, like you could say in the first movie or the second movie or even the third movie, other than the toys are out in the real world and are trying to avoid getting seen, and meeting new toys are all toys along the way, like obviously Bo Peep. They also meet Duke Kaboom as well. Like, he's
Duke Kaboom.
Let's throw in Keanu Reeves in there. He's this Canadian fucking Evel Knievel character. There you go. Duke Kaboom's in it, and it's just like,
well, like evil Keanu evil.
Yeah, and then they, like I said, they meet two rabbits. They meet Gabby. Like, they just meet just meets a bunch of people. Like, what is the actual story going in there? What actually happens in this movie? Like,
you know what I was thinking about when I was watching this movie. Obviously, Shrek is a franchise that's been done to death. I don't know if you know, but they like had these kind of TV specials for Shrek. Like they had like Shrek the Halls.
Yes,
I think
yes,
they had
yeah,
one
I've
where it
seen
was
that,
like they
yeah.
went on like a Shrek road trip or something. And I was watching this film and I was thinking, this feels like it should be kind of a, Christmas Day made for TV short Toy Story movie, like Toy Story the road trip, and it's kind of just like a little extra kind of thing where it doesn't really have to be that good, like Shrek the Halls. Like nobody sat there going like, oh, Shrek the Halls is a 6 out of 10, but it's just like there to kind of check in on these characters. And there's no expectations. That's what I felt like watching this film. It's like I feel like I'm watching a TV movie that was kind of just made after the fact. It's not a $200 million feature
exactly.
film.
If you made the whole thing, like I said before, Woody, what's he going to do? What path is he going to choose? Okay, I think that's interesting, more interesting than what we got. But again, you don't really get that. It's just a script that's lacking in any good ideas. Like overall, characters in trouble, and then some characters try and save them. They're all rushing in and out of this antique store. It just feels so hastily slapped together, like it's an afterthought. Like, hey, there's Keanu Reeves. I watched the honest trailer for Toy Story 4, and they just nailed it when they said like, oh, the plot's slowing down. Here's Keanu Reeves, and that's exactly how it felt. It's like this is dragging away. Oh, here's a new character. It's Keanu Reeves, and they also did a great thing where they were like going back and they did this. I think it was like a 30-second long explanation of what Woody has to do, like all the ins and outs of like Woody goes here, and then Bo Peep goes here, then Bo Peep goes here, then Gabby goes here, Gabby goes there, like all the movements from the characters, and it was exhausting, and it felt like that watching it because I like to keep track of how all the characters are doing, and it was just like fucking hell. So Bo Peep's over here now, Woody's over here, Forky's over there now. I was just like, what is going on in this movie? It's like there is no like. There's no plot, is there? There's no fucking plot. And also, all the old I like this. All the old characters, all the great character actors, they're just stuck in that RV. Like,
I know. Oh goodness me!
They're just stuck in that RV,
like
not doing anything.
It's like the basic thing in like writing a film is being like, oh, we need to give the characters like a thing to do that's like entertaining. I guess it's kind of funny that I complimented Toy Story 3 and said like the beginning kind of had a really good job at giving all the characters like their thing to do. So like the opening act of Toy Story 3
is a lot better movie than you give it credit for. But
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Like watching this movie makes me feel more fondly for Toy Story 3.
I've got a good joke. Those characters in the RV, like Slinky and Rex, what they should have done is they should have the writers should have written like a side story where they go to like an alien casino planet to try and get help.
Oh yeah.
You got the reference, right?
No.
You fucking idiot. An alien casino planet, a side story to try and get help because they've got nothing to do, these characters.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's The Last Jedi. Sorry.
Yeah, The Last Jedi. They should do that.
Yeah.
And then they come and it doesn't affect anything at all. And it was just completely pointless.
Yeah,
just give them something to do. I mean, what is worse, I guess? Just having them there or... Yeah. I mean, look, obviously they're not going to go to an alien casino planet, but... Yeah, maybe have them do something else, and maybe.
I mean, to be fair, they could go to a casino, and also, at casinos they play games. So here's my question: Are the playing cards sentient toys? Because you play with them.
That's a good point. See, I mean,
that's a good question.
Just
so they could have gone to an Indian casino planet.
We're just delving too deeply here into this whole thing. It's we got to stop, Michael. We got to stop. So yeah, basically, then what happens is at the end of the movie, the toys are back together once more. And
yeah, actually, wait, I've got one thing to say before the end of the movie. It's just, and I don't know if like this is me, but I felt like fun fact, I watched this for the first time on a plane. It's relevant, but I genuinely got whiplash, and it wasn't because of the turbulence, when, with the character of Gabby. Because here's what happened, okay, so Gabby, she's set up as a villain. She wants to tear out somebody's voice box. She wants to tear their body apart like Frankenstein, so she can use it. She can use their voice box. And I was watching it and I was like, and then obviously in the end, she kind of basically manipulates Woody by being like, hey, give me your voice box or else you won't get Forky. And Woody's like, okay, fine. And then obviously she, has her voice box and the girl, I'm forgetting her name. What was it? Samantha? That's not right.
I don't know.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, anyway. So she picks up, Harmony, that's it. She picks up Gabby. And then she goes, oh, it's some old toy, and throws it away. And I was thinking, there we go. That's Gabby, the villain's comeuppance. And I was like, take that, Gabby. And then suddenly the film becomes, we've got to help Gabby. And I'm like, hold on a minute. like, am I just crazy, or is it very weird
no,
that
I
this
knew that
film
was going
wants
to
us to
happen.
be?
I knew that was going to happen because Gabby, she was too nice. She was nice to
Yeah.
Forky. She wasn't portrayed as evil enough.
It's very weird, like, to also have her motivation be to tear out another toy's voice box. It's kind of like, it's a weird, because that's the thing, like, the whole time I was watching, I was like a bit confused by it, because I was like, that's pretty evil, wanting to tear out a toy's voice box for selfish reasons, but then she's kind of written like a nice person. So yeah, I just think and also I guess that the funny thing is, without that, it means there isn't really a villain in this film, which obviously there have been in all the other films. So it's kind of like combined. So you've got a character who's kind of written villainously, but then like written villainously in a weird way where they're also kind of nice.
There isn't a villain.
And then and then suddenly the rest of the film becomes about like trying to make everything work out for them.
They just have a bunch of obstacles that they have to overcome, the characters, and that is it, really. I mean, you think she's a villain, but she turns out not to be a villain at the end. Because, I mean, Woody does what he could have just done right at the start, which is just give her the voice box for Forky. No need to actually break in to the antique store. You could have just saved
actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The ultimate solution, completely renders the rest of the film pointless.
Yeah, not the rest of the film, like the middle 30 minutes where he's trying to save Forky. So well, let's get to the end of the movie now. Like I said, all the toys are back together. Woody doesn't want to leave Bo, but then Buzz persuades Woody that Bonnie will be okay without him, and Woody decides to stay with Bo instead of returning to Bonnie. I mean, like I said, it's great and all, but consider. Let's first talk about the end of the last movie, Michael.
Yes.
And this is the key thing. The final scene with Andy is undercut so much because think about it. He is handing off Woody to Bonnie, and she has a great time with him. She says, hey, it's my cowboy, when Andy picks him out of the box. And she reaches towards him. It's implied that she really loves Woody, and Woody is her favourite character. And, now that last scene, like I said, it just seems incredibly undercut. Like the perfect ending, not only did you add on this unnecessary movie to what was a perfect ending, in my opinion, then you also undercut that perfect ending. Like it's a double sin. We need something stronger than sin, Michael.
It's oh wait, what's it called? Deadly sin. It's a deadly sin.
It's a double deadly sin that you did.
A double deadly sin.
Disgraceful. And just so what do you have to say on that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously if you just kind of look at like the thematic endings to the four films, the first one is obviously like it's a very happy ending of just like, oh, don't worry, Andy's gonna love you no matter what, because like there's enough love to go around. That's basically the ending to the first one. This ending to the second one is again pretty optimistic. It's obviously things aren't going to last forever, but ultimately you can enjoy it while it lasts. The third film, the ending is, oh, look, now he has been passed on, and we can reasonably assume the cycle will continue. They're basically what they've already established of, you don't have to worry, your child will still love you, and the most important thing is actually being there for your child, so don't worry about like the future, just enjoy it while it lasts. That cycle is going to continue. And then you get this fourth film, and it's like, what is the film saying? What does the film want us to understand? Because it's very obvious what the first three films want us to understand about the situation. This film is like suddenly, oh yeah, just abandon your child, because why? Because then you get to play with lots of other kids as a lost toy. But Woody's whole character has been that he believes that the most important thing you can do is be there for your child and be like a loyal toy. And he's kind of been established as it. Just I don't get where it comes from.
Maybe if they set it up up this way, that Woody has been through so much. He's given so much to Andy, and he's still helping Bonnie along. And
it's like a retirement.
Yeah, this is a retirement. Like he's done enough, so he can go. He can go out to stud with Bo. He can. Yeah. He's basically he's done the hard work. Now he's retiring. And he can, just put his feet up and enjoy the rest of his days, which is apparently eternity. Okay, I don't know, but anyway, he's that's what he can do. But and Forky's giving Forky back to Bonnie is his last thing that he has to do. But again, if you set that up throughout the movie, that would be great. But it's not like I don't really mind the. Of course, I mind the message in the context of what happened in Toy Story 3, but I don't mind it overall if they executed it well. But this was not executed well at all. What if from the beginning Woody was acknowledging that his time maybe was up with Bonnie, and this is going to be the last thing he does to save Forky, and maybe he was thinking that way, and then, like I said, Bo Peep shows him like the whole like what a great time being a lost toy could be, and then it just but the way the movie ends, it just comes on suddenly out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I almost feel like, see, obviously, I don't think they could have done the whole kind of 9 years of real time aging, which seems to have been basically what they did with the original. Actually, that's not quite true because he goes, well, I don't know. Anyway, feel like maybe they could have made Bonnie a bit older. Like, obviously, she has to be quite young in order for some of the stuff to work. I think they probably could have worked out some way, because obviously, even when you're like 8. I think it's still fair to say you'd be like, oh man, I'm going to build a bloody thing out of pipe cleaners or whatever. I think that's reasonable enough to say. So they could have had her be like a bit older, so he'd be like, he's done some stuff. As things stand, it seems like she's basically, this film is taking place like maybe a year, maybe 2 years after the first film. So it's kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, not that much has happened. So it's kind of like, it's not as if it's like, oh, this is many years later and Woody has really kind of gone through everything. It's sort of just like, oh, he saw one kid and then spent like a year with another kid and then he retires. So yeah, I will also say, actually, the other thing is, I think the fact he becomes a lost toy, it kind of, one reason why it feels a bit weird for me is actually because of the second film, because the whole thing is Woody's, the idea of being in the toy museum, I think, is really tantalizing. Like the idea of, he'd get to live with Bullseye and Jesse and the Prospector and basically live in a perfect cowboy world where he would be the king. That kind of almost, it comes across as like the idea of Woody's toy heaven. He gets to exist in a perfect toy world with all the cowboy friends and stuff like that. And the whole point was that he decides that he isn't going to go to that perfect world because he'd rather live in the imperfect reality where things aren't guaranteed and stuff like that. Like, he basically embraces reality. So it's kind of like, I guess the problem with this film is it's like, oh, it turns out actually, no, he's just going to abandon things. So it's like, well, why doesn't he just, I guess it kind of, when he's already turned down kind of the perfect reality, it's like, oh, now he turns down the principle that led him to turn down that reality.
I think the difference is maybe it's with Bo, who he apparently really likes. Again, like you said, that wasn't established either. That they were that close. I mean, I don't really remember much from her, but yeah, maybe that's the difference. But yeah, I can see what you mean. Like, it does kind of undercut Toy Story 2 as well, to a certain degree. By the way, Michael, and it undercuts Toy Story 1 because he's no longer friends with Buzz. Can't argue with that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that he's no longer friends, but they're no longer hanging out.
Yeah. By the way, Michael, I think I've got a good review from someone on Wikipedia that I think sums up my thoughts quite well. Because I was looking on Wikipedia, and in actual fact, most of the critical consensus says that this movie was really good. I think it's got 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Boo, shills.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it. It's ridiculous. This is a bad movie. But someone did agree with me, and that is Kyle Smith of the National Review. Now, I think Kyle Smith is the same guy who said Goodfellas is a movie that can only be watched by men. Like, women just don't get it. So, and obviously, the National
Review is conservative.
Yeah, it's a conservative. So this is a case of the worst person you know just made a great point. You know what that means. But anyway, he called the film the weakest effort in the series so far. Absolutely correct. Finding its subject matter was unclear. I think that is also correct. And the motives of the characters opposed and undermined the series' previous installments. Yes, also correct. He further critiqued the film for prioritising its comedy while the story's underlying themes were tossed out haphazardly without much follow-through. Yes, also correct. And I'm not sure it's the comedy that was prioritised. It was more just the plot.
The money.
Yeah, I mean,
the box
money.
office.
It was just the plot, which wasn't the plot. Characters racing around, having to save people, going back and forth, etc. He said, it may be an essential element of Disney's corporate strategy, but as a film, it's forgettable. Yes, absolutely. Like, this movie made $1 billion, but it's forgettable and unnecessary because it ruins I'd say really maybe the best trilogy of all time of movies. I don't know. Toy Story 1, 2 and 3. And now it's a quadrilogy. And the number 4 severely weakens it. And how many quadrilogies do you know, Michael?
Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Another film where the fourth one's the best.
Yeah, exactly. Never make a fourth movie. I think that's the message. So yeah, I guess, I mean, that's kind of a conclusion. So I'll just build on from that. I think, yeah, it's a very bad movie overall. I mean, look, if you want to make a movie about what could Woody choose between, going with Bonnie, going with Bo Peep, yes, it undercuts Toy Story 2, and it also undercuts Toy Story 3 because Bonnie, ended that movie loving Woody, and it was like the perfect ending and all of that shit. But yeah, forget all that. But that is going to factor into my my rating. But forget all that. If you want to make it about that, then let's have let's have some of that in that movie. Let's, not have, him just completely out of no, because the first time I watched it was like, oh shit, he's just leaving them. Okay, that really wasn't built up to. I guess it makes sense, there have been clues, but really that it just came as a bit of a shock. Like, okay, he's going to leave these toys and he's just going to go with Bo Peep. He's entering the next chapter of his life, and that's it. That's it. I mean, look, it's got to be an ending now because he's left them. It's got to be an ending, I guess. But it wasn't necessary in the first place. Again, it just wasn't necessary. And yeah, the action is really. The overall movie, the plot is just shit because it's all action and there's nothing really happens really in the movie. That's what it feels like. And yeah, there's many other minor problems as well. But it's a bad movie overall, Michael. Like I said, so I'm gonna give this movie. I think it's Toy Story 4, so I think it's got to be a 4 out of 10. I think that's quite fitting. So 4 out of 10 for Toy Story 4. Give me your review now, Michael.
Yeah. Basically, I actually when I first watched it, I said I'm going to give Toy Story 4 a 4 because I do think that's appropriate. By the way, I did find out there are actually Toy Story television specials. There's Toy Story of Terror and there's Toy Story that Time Forgot. So there should have been another film. This should have been one of those films because yeah, it's bad. And that's what it is. And it's kind of like we covered everything, and especially our good friend from the National Review covered everything. It's thematically, it makes no sense. In terms of like just the plot coherence, there's nothing there. Like I kind of just sit there and think, what am I supposed to be invested in here? The characterization just feels like completely off for Bo Peep. Obviously, it's just like you have to buy the fact that this character we've not seen is now really important, and obviously the characters who we have seen and we are invested in become really irrelevant, and that to me just. I guess it feels like a film where they don't care. And obviously, actually, there is a larger context here, which is that Pixar have recently moved much more reliably to making sequels. For the first 15 years of their existence, they really did not make sequels. And now they've moved on to it. And I'll tell you what, say whatever you will about Toy Story 3. I think it was the harbinger of their love for just making unnecessary sequels. Well, unnecessary. Obviously, Toy Story 3 was more necessary, but it was the harbinger of them making sequels. And I think, Incredibles 2, all these other sequels have been terrible. Well, not terrible, but not as good. And this film's no exception. It just feels completely unnecessary. And it feels lazy, and it feels very much like they're like, oh, people are going to see it anyway. I think I'm going to, in keeping with being more negative on Toy Story 3, I am going to be more negative on this film, and I'm going to put it below Caddyshack, but above the
So
Net.
what's that out of 10?
That's actually, it's a 3 out of 10.
Oh wow, even lower than me. You know what, Michael, considering how much I liked Toy Story 3.
Yeah, maybe you'd be even more angry at this because it ruined Toy Story 3.
Yeah, I should really put it below you, really. So you know what? It's going to change from a 4 to a 3. To me, I just thought of 4 because I was like, you know what? It's Toy Story 4. Isn't that clever? Isn't that nice? But
I know, yeah.
A 3 out of 10 seems more.
Yeah, because I think for me, the reason why I would really give it 3 is because it feels like it really does feel lazy.
Yeah, lazy.
It feels like they just couldn't think to themselves, like they couldn't be bothered to think, how do we include Buzz and things like that? So they're just hanging out on an RV.
Just complete and utter shit. Just nothing redeeming. And like I said, there could have been something redeeming, but they just didn't put any effort into it. So yeah, 3 out of 10.
And yet the cut liberal media will still give it 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
They all love Disney because they love cancelled culture. All the liberal media, so that's why they give it. Oh fucking hell, God, we got to do something about this, Michael. That's our reviews of
Trump 2024.
Yeah, that's our reviews of Toy Story 3 and 4. I gave Toy Story 1 a 9.5 and Toy Story 2 a 9, and I have given Toy Story 3 an 8.5, and then Toy Story 4, is it an 8? No, it's a 3. A massive drop off, and I don't think there's ever a movie I wish didn't exist more than this one. I mean, I don't know. I've thought about this for 5 seconds, but that's what I feel about Toy Story 4. Anyway, Michael, what are we doing next week?
Well, next week we're looking at Duke Kaboom in Point Break.
Yes, Point Break. That'll be a great review, I am sure. So thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on Toy Story 3 and 4 because of Toy Story 4's win in the Best Animated Feature category at the 2020 Oscars last year. And I can't remember if I've seen any of the other contenders, but given my rating, probably...
Oh wait, I have seen all the other contenders.
Was this the worst? This has got to be the worst, right? Probably the least deserving win ever. ever. Even more than fucking Crash, Michael. That's it. Join us next week for Point Break. Have you, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.